Welcome back, my friends. Pull up a chair, pour yourself something warm, and let's pick up right where we left off. This continues my own take on James, his wife, and their precious little Nie. Last time we ended at the dinner table, with Nie about to make a wish that would stop her parents in their tracks. So, let's not keep you waiting. Nie set down her chopsticks. She looked at her dad, then at her mom, and then she said something so simple it almost broke them both. Mom, Dad, can we go fishing together? All three of us? Not just me and Dad. All of us. Like a real family trip. James froze. His wife's hand went to her chest. Because here's the thing. James had been doing this work alone for years. His wife had been the one cooking, cleaning, keeping the home warm. They had never thought about going to the stream together. It just wasn't how their days were built. But now their daughter was asking. And it was such a small thing. Such a beautiful, simple, small thing. James looked at his wife. And his wife, with tears already gathering, just nodded. Yes, baby, she said. All three of us. Nie clapped her hands and laughed. She went back to her rice, like nothing big had happened. But something big had happened. Something that was going to shape the rest of their lives. Here's what I find beautiful about this. Children don't know their starting traditions. They just ask for what their heart wants. And sometimes, that one little ask becomes the thing a family holds onto for generations. Nie didn't know it, but she just gave her parents a gift they didn't know they needed. The next morning was a Saturday. James woke up earlier than usual. He moved quietly so he wouldn't wake the others. He packed the basket bigger this time. 3 nets instead of 2. An extra bucket. A small mat in case his wife wanted to sit and rest. He even packed a thermos of tea because he knew she liked something warm in the mornings. Picture this. A man in his quiet kitchen packing a basket not just for work, but for memories. That's a different kind of preparation. That's love wrapped up in canvas and rope. When his wife came out of the bedroom in her work clothes, James looked up and smiled. You're really coming? He asked, even though he already knew. Of course I am, she said. I want to see what you two do out there. I want to be part of it. And just like that, the 3 of them set off together. But here's what surprised me. The whole walk to the stream, it wasn't James leading anymore. It was Nie, the little girl who, just a day before, had been a beginner. Now, she was the tour guide. Mom, this is where the path gets slippery. Mom, look at that bird. Dad says they catch fish too. Mom, the water gets deeper around the bend. Hold Dad's hand. James walked behind them, watching his wife and daughter holding hands, listening to Nie explain everything she had learned in one single day. He had to stop for a moment and pretend to fix his sandal, because if he didn't, he was going to cry right there on the path. You see, James had spent so much of his life walking alone, to the stream, to the fields, to wherever the work was, and now for the first time he wasn't walking alone. His wife was beside him, his daughter was ahead of him, and the road forward looked completely different than the road behind. When they reached the stream, the morning mist was still hanging over the water. The leaves were soft and green. Birds were calling from the trees. James set down the basket and turned to his family. Welcome to my office, he said with a grin. His wife laughed. Nie was already kicking off her sandals. And something new was about to begin. The water was cool that morning, not cold like before, just soft and gentle. James went in first to test the bottom, then held out his hand for his wife. She took it. She stepped in, and she gasped. Oh, this feels wonderful. Picture this, a woman who had spent years standing over a hot stove, finally feeling cool stream water around her ankles. Her face lit up like she had remembered something she had forgotten a long time ago. James just stood there watching her, holding her hand, not saying anything. Because some moments don't need words. Nie was already in, splashing carefully like her father had taught her. Mom, watch. Mom, watch this. She moved through the shallow water with surprising skill. She pointed at a spot near a flat rock. Dad said the fish like to hide there. James laughed. She remembers everything I say. I better be careful what I tell her. For the next hour, the three of them worked together. James handled the bigger pools. His wife stayed in the shallows with Nee. They found fish, lots of them. The floodwaters had brought everything down from the highlands, just like James had said they would. Every time someone caught one, they all cheered. Nee caught two. Her mother caught one, by accident, when a small fish swam right into her hand. She screamed and laughed at the same time. James scooped it up and put it in the bucket. You know what I noticed? Nobody was rushing. Nobody was thinking about the time. They were just there, together, in the water, doing this one small, beautiful thing as a family. And that's a rare kind of magic in this world. What I love about this moment is that James's wife wasn't separate from his work anymore. For years, she had cooked the fish he caught, but she had never seen the stream, never felt the water, never known what it took to bring those fish home. Now she knew, and it made her love for him deeper than it had ever been. When they sat down to rest, James spread the little mat on a flat rock. His wife sat down with a sigh of contentment. Nee flopped down next to her and put her head in her lap. James poured tea from the thermos and handed her a cup. She took it with both hands, looked at him, and said something quiet. Thank you for all of this, for every day, for everything you do. James didn't say anything for a moment. He just looked at her, really looked at her, the woman who had been by his side through every hard year, the woman who had prayed beside him at every meal, the woman who had given him the bright-eyed little girl now snoring softly against her thigh. He took her hand. I'm the one who should be thanking you. And they sat there like that, holding hands, while the stream kept flowing past them, taking the morning with it. Nee woke up a little while later, rubbed her eyes, and said, I'm hungry. Of course she was. They packed up and headed home. But this time, all three of them carried a piece of the morning with them. And then something beautiful happened. Halfway home, Nee suddenly stopped walking. She turned around and looked at her parents. Can we do this every Saturday? She asked. Every single one? James and his wife looked at each other, and in that look, they both said yes before their mouths did. Every Saturday, James said. From now on, that's our family day. Nee cheered. She did a little dance right there on the path. Her parents laughed until their cheeks hurt. That walk home felt different, like they were carrying something new between them. Not just a bucket of fish, a tradition, a promise, something that would belong to them, just to them, for years to come. When they got back to the house, their neighbor was waiting at the gate. She had seen them leave together that morning, and she had brought something with her, something that was about to add one more beautiful thread to this growing story. The neighbor was an older woman from down the road. Sweet face, grey hair pulled back, a small basket in her arms. She smiled when she saw them coming. I saw you three go out together this morning, she said. I haven't seen anything that lovely in a long time. She held out the basket. Inside were freshly steamed rice cakes, still warm, wrapped in banana leaves. I made these. I thought maybe you'd share them with your little one. James's wife took the basket with both hands. She was speechless for a moment. Then she said, Come in, eat with us, please. The neighbor hesitated, but Nee grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the door. Come on, come on. We have so much fish. And that settled it. Picture this, a tiny kitchen, 4 people now, where there used to be 3. The neighbor washing her hands at the basin, Nee setting an extra place at the table, James's wife arranging the rice cakes on a plate like they were precious, James standing at the stove, smiling to himself. Because here it was, the thing he had been telling his wife about for years. We always have enough when we share. It was happening, right in front of him. Creator's commentary. This is what builds a village. Not big speeches, not grand events. One neighbor noticing, one family opening the door, one small basket of rice cakes turning into a meal that nobody at that table will ever forget. This is how communities are made. Quietly, one Saturday at a time, they ate together that afternoon. The neighbor told stories about when she was a young woman in this village, how the streams used to be even fuller, how her own father had taught her to wrap fish in betel leaves, She showed Nee how to do it. Nee listened with wide eyes, trying to copy every movement. And the neighbor, who lived alone now, smiled like she hadn't smiled in years. Halfway through the meal, the neighbor put down her chopsticks and looked at James's wife. "I have a granddaughter," she said. "She's about Nee's age. She's coming to visit me next month. Would you let her come along on one of your Saturday trips?" She doesn't have a family like this. Her mother works far away. She gets lonely. James's wife reached across the table and took the older woman's hand. "Bring her every Saturday," she said. "She has a family here, as long as she wants one." The neighbor's eyes filled up. She couldn't speak. She just nodded. James, watching this from his side of the table, felt something settle in his chest. Something he had only ever dreamed of. The little family he had built was now becoming something bigger. Something that could hold more people. Something that could reach. After the neighbor went home, James sat on the porch with his wife. Nee was inside, still arranging the leftover rice cakes by color. James looked out at the sky and said quietly, "Did you ever think we'd get to this?" His wife leaned her head on his shoulder. "I always knew we would," she whispered. "I just didn't know it would feel like this." This is the part that always gets me. James didn't set out to build anything big. He just wanted to feed his family. But love has a way of spilling over the edges. It doesn't stay where you put it. It finds the lonely neighbor. It finds the visiting granddaughter. It finds everyone who walks past the door. That's what's happening here. And it's only just starting. That evening, after the dishes were washed and Nee had fallen asleep on the couch, James and his wife sat at the kitchen table. They talked about next Saturday. They talked about the neighbor's granddaughter. And then his wife said something that made James pause. Something about an old family recipe her own mother used to make. A recipe she had almost forgotten. A recipe she suddenly wanted to teach Nee, before it was too late. And what I believe comes next will be the most beautiful moment of all. Because that recipe wasn't just a recipe. It was a piece of her own childhood she had been carrying alone. And now, for the first time, she was ready to share it.